Punctuation does help a lot with readers.
Controlling the reader.
It really does. It provides the scaffolding and the kind of the framework for the reader.
Releasing your inner dragon.
Alrighty, Marie. I hear we have another sacrifice for the chopping block.
We do. We do have another brave soul who sent us the opening of their novel for us to take a look at and critique and offer our commentary on it.
So why don't you pull that up? And while you do, and we haven't been doing this all the time, and I regret that. Remember, this is mine and Marie's opinions. We're not saying you have to do this stuff. We're not saying that we're gods of the literary world. We're saying from the decades of experience that we have and dealing with the industry and fans and readers and everything else, these are things that we would recommend that you think about in your writing. You can ignore us, you can take it, you can learn from it, you can cuss us out as long as you just do it in your house in private, because the world doesn't need more vitriol. Like, it doesn't matter. This is just an exercise. So do be aware that we're just giving our opinions. A lot of this stuff is so subjective that, you can absolutely 100% disagree with anything that we say. I mean, every once in a while we disagree with each other. So
we recently had a dude, we recently had a comment on one of our earlier crit videos where someone was like, they don't feel that the long paragraphs are a problem because, the classic sci-fi has up to like 10 sentences in a paragraph and so on. And that is 100% correct for them. I don't personally feel that paragraphs that long make for great reading, generally speaking, as a general rule. But, if you want to write in long paragraphs, then do so.
Well, there's actually a rabbit I'd like to chase down that path. So many people do that, and I do personally think this is a mistake. And again, you can disagree with me, you can do whatever. I'll go to a writer's conference and meet someone for the first time, and they're there to pitch their fantasy book, and they know I'm a fantasy author, so they want to talk to me and tell me about their story and everything like that. And almost every time, at least once during a writer's conference, somebody will tell me the story, and I'll be like, you're gonna have a really hard time selling that. Yep. And they'll go, what are you talking about? It's exactly like Lord of the Rings. I'm like, yeah, and Lord of the Rings was published in 1954. Publishers don't buy like Lord of the Rings. If it hadn't been published in 54 and somebody was submitting it today, I don't think it would sell. It's not written in a way that people read today. And so by saying, well, classic sci-fi fantasy or, classic sci-fi books are written this way, back in the 70s. Yeah, but do you have a time machine? Are you going to go back in time and sell it in 1970s? Because if you don't, then you're going to have a hard time selling it. I mean, that's all I'm saying to this, to that person is write what you want. You're the artist. Do whatever you want to do. But tastes have changed. Just like we don't wear the same clothes that we wore in the 70s, thank God.
It's also a genre taste, because the person is also like fourth, you should be able to write at a higher level than fourth grade English and so on. And for example, I don't write at fourth grade English in my epic fantasy. I write it around seventh or eighth grade or something like that at my last analysis of my work.
Right.
And I do occasionally use $10 words, but it does, and I know it makes my writing slightly more inaccessible because I do occasionally send a reader heading for the dictionary. And when they put my book down to open the dictionary, there's a chance that they might not pick the book back up again. And that's always the risk you run with using. But I consciously made that choice because I like writing with those stranger words in epic fantasy. Maybe you make the same choice in science fiction. But the common kind of genre advice is fourth grade English. Not to say that you have to be there, just that that's the common advice.
And it does make a difference for people. Basically, and I think I've said this on here before, but basically every decision you make as a writer loses you readers. Loses you potential readers, not loses you readers, but loses you potential readers. So, me and Marie both write epic fantasy. She writes at a 7th grade reading level. I write at a 4th grade reading level. Because the 4th grade reading level has a bigger pool of people who are comfortable reading that than the 7th grade. Not that it's that much smaller, but it's still, she is making a decision that this is the art I want to create. I like my, more advanced form of English, which means she makes the decision that her pool of potential readers is a little smaller because of that one decision, period. But every decision you make, if you choose to write in a genre, which you have to, I mean, that's kind of the point, you lose readers. Even if you're like, oh, I'm going to write romance because that's the biggest reader pool that exists, it's still only about 25% of all readers. So by just writing in the biggest genre that exists, you lose 75% of all potential readers because you made one choice. Every decision we make is going to just shrink that pool down further and further and further. But you have to be comfortable with that. You have to decide, okay, this is the art I want to create. So and you're not wrong. Like, that's the thing, is that you're always going to find that readership. It just, the decisions you make are going to adjust that size of that readership pool.
Yep. All right. So with all of that out of the way, let us turn to our victim. And now we are going to give our strongly held opinions in ridiculously exacerbated
Factual ways. Now we're going to get on our soapboxes and preach from on high.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
Gather around, children, for the sermon is about to begin. You want to make it a little bigger?
Sure, I will make it somewhat bigger.
Because I'm old. There
No
you
problem.
go.
All right. Man, I best not find that fool up there watching no cartoon, I swear. Butcher's legs burned as he rushed up the stairs. Reaching the 5th floor, he inhaled deep as the back of his buzz-cut head itched for a scratch. Behind him, Malak Moot Carter skipped a few steps, calling after him, trying to catch up. Okay, I'm going to stop here because I've got a couple of commentaries on this opening paragraph. So, I'm not saying that it's wrong to open a chapter in dialogue, and I certainly have opened at least one chapter with dialogue. But I would not advise doing it for your first chapter of the book, and I'll explain why. Your dialogue is said in the character's voice. And at this point, the reader has not met the character. So they don't know how the dialogue is said. Their first introduction is something that they should understand how it's said, but they don't because they don't know the character. So you want to at least have the person be briefly introduced to the reader before they say a line of dialogue so that the reader understands how that comes out of their mouth.
Yeah, this is what I preach to my students in the writer's room. The reason why so many people fail with the openings of their novels is they are writing for themselves. They are biased with all the knowledge they have. They're biased with everything. And so they forget. They just, it's that head book, paper book. So this writer knows exactly that Butch is the one talking. They know exactly what Butch's voice sounds like to them. And they're like, of course, everybody else is going to know too, because I know. But they don't. They only know what you give them. So even if you started it with Butch's legs burned as he rushed up the stairs, man, I best not find that fool. Like, now we know, we don't know anything about Butch, but it's a very masculine name. So we're going to kind of assume, unless you show us differently later, that it's a dude. So we're going to read it in a dude voice. And that helps us so much to understand what we're seeing. Because again, you know who it is and you know their voice, but you can't assume anything, especially at the openings of your story. And really even at the opening of a scene. But at the opening of the story, your number one job is to make the reader care or connect or fall in love with, or at least be intrigued by the character and want to follow it. The only person that loves your story and your character at the first word is you. And if you write anything that assumes that the reader loves it also, then you're going to fail because they don't love it. They don't give a crap about any of it until you make them give a crap about it.
I guess that was the first thing that I wasn't crazy about, was the opening with the dialogue. And you're right, you can fix that quite easily by at least putting Butcher's legs burned as he rushed up the stairs first. At least that gives us an introduction to Butcher.
Something.
Then the second thing that I don't like is reaching the 5th floor, he inhaled deep as the back of his buzz-cut head itched for a scratch. What in the name of all that is chicken and small does a buzz-cut head itching for a scratch have to do with him inhaling?
Yeah.
Those two things
Yeah,
are completely disconnected. There's no way one causes the other. There's no way one is connected with the other, unless this is an alien creature whose lungs work differently from mine.
Yeah. And the turn of phrase itch for a scratch, subjectively, some people are going to like that, some people are not. So I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not saying change it. I'm just saying when you do something like that, you got to know that some people are going to be like, itch for a scratch. That's terrible.
The reason why it's obviously because what else would it be itching for? It's kind of overwriting. It's a little bit of overwriting. Yeah.
Right. It's just redundant. Yeah. It's superfluous. The for a scratch is kind of superfluous. But again, like, it's a cool turn of phrase, and it 100% is. I'm just pointing out that, again, I said earlier, every choice you make can lose you readers. So if there are those people that offends or not offends, but bugs, then they're going to go, maybe this writer isn't for me because they're already in the first paragraph using a turn of phrase that makes me feel weird.
I'll tell you how you can fix my problem with it, though. Reaching the 5th floor, he inhaled deep, a sweat of, as a sweat, basically, stop it, he inhaled deep. A drop of sweat ran down his head, his buzz cut itching for a scratch, something like that. Connect
go ahead.
this stuff.
Yeah. Well, one of the people that are watching us record this live, and if you would like to watch us record this live, you can absolutely for free. You just go to writersroom.us, sign up for a free account, and every Thursday from 9:30 Pacific time to about noon, we are in here recording, and so you can join us and chat and add things to it. So they said, yes, it seems like a lot of words to describe scratching, but if it is how the character himself would describe the action, then it's actually, not terrible is the word to use, but correct. And yes, that is 100% accurate. However, your words are still painting a picture inside the reader's mind. And inhaling and scratching, I don't know how to paint that picture. It's a weird connection. So it's hard and really just breaking this up, even if we don't add anything, reaching the 5th floor, he inhaled deep, period. The back of his buzz cut head itched for a scratch. Like, even just separating them out without changing a single thing makes it not have that weird, why am I inhaling and making my head itch? Because that's also, if we look at the sentence structure, that's what it's doing. The inhaling is what we're going to assume is causing the head to itch. But it's probably something like his anger, his frustration over whoever this is that's watching cartoons or whatever that's making his buzz cut head itch. And so even just dividing them out without changing a single word, I feel like you make that stronger.
Yeah, I agree. I'm also not crazy about behind him, Malak Moot Carter skipped a few steps, calling after him, trying to catch up. And I'll tell you why again. We're now introducing, okay, so we've got some unintroduced character at the top of the stairs. We've got the narrator who's Butch. And now we're introducing a third character that we're not describing, but that is skipping a few steps. I don't know where they're skipping a few steps. Does that mean they're jumping over some steps on the staircase? Anyway, and they're calling after him, and that him is pointing at the wrong person, because that him is pointing at Malik, not at Butch, trying to catch up.
And there's a word in the second paragraph of the last sentence of the second paragraph that maybe you want to auto correct to fools, just because, in case YouTube gets all pissy with it. This last sentence. Some fools just
Oh,
ain't built for the streets, man. I think you can just
oh, right.
auto change that to fools. I mean, you can just do it verbally.
Yeah. Let me
Um,
just put track changes on and do that, because there are like YouTube probably won't mind because we are past the initial kind of 30 minutes of it, but there are words I'm also uncomfortable saying.
yeah,
So that
I
would
just
be one of
noticed
them.
that, so I was going to throw.
Yeah.
And not that we are telling you to change it. This has nothing to do with the writer. You do
Yeah.
you. We're just not going to say it on YouTube because it could come back against us. So
Yeah.
you do
It
you, and we're going to do
it
us.
could result in the video getting demonetized or age restricted or something like that. So
Right. Exactly. So there's just no reason for us to go down that path.
yeah.
But we are not saying you should
No,
censor
no.
yourself or
Like
change or anything like that.
keep it as if it's appropriate for your character, by
Yeah.
all means.
Yeah.
There's nothing inherently that we're saying it must change.
Yeah.
It's
This is a YouTube rules thing,
yeah,
not anything else.
yeah. There
So
are
yeah,
things that YouTube doesn't like you saying, especially early in the video.
right.
Yeah,
Um, I also feel so I was like, okay, well, obviously, because there's dialogue, then that last sentence needs to be actually a part of the next paragraph, but actually the next paragraph loses me.
yeah.
There's a speech tag in the middle of the dialogue, but reading it, I don't know. I think it might be the character saying that speech tag. So I don't think that's a speech tag. I actually think that is dialogue. Um, but if
Yeah,
it
I'm
is,
certain that is dialogue. I think what is happening here is Moot is saying, "Hey, you deaf?" I said, "Hold up, damn." Um, and then the actual piece of dialogue is identified by Moot adjusted his
right,
durag. Am I
it
pronouncing
is
that right?
durag, but I'm pretty sure it's spelled D-O or D-O-O. I
I don't
didn't
know
look
what
it
it
up, but
is.
it's
So,
durag. It's the little bandana kind of thing
oh, okay.
that
I got you.
some
I've seen them. I just didn't know it was called a durag.
yeah, it's called a durag.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that means that this last paragraph or this last sentence of the first paragraph is actually the first sentence of the second paragraph because
Yeah.
behind him, and even though that's him as in Butch, Malik Moot Carter Skip, that is Malik's paragraph.
Mm,
And the second part of it is also Malik's paragraph. And so we want that to be one paragraph, that this last sentence has nothing to do with Butch. I
right.
mean, Butch is the anchor for where Malik is at behind because Malik is behind Butch,
Mm,
but the behind Butch is not about Butch. It's actually about Malik. Malik is behind Butch. And so therefore it's a part of Malik's paragraph.
yeah. Yeah, I agree. So yeah, ideally it should be part of that. But I'm struggling a bit with that second sentence, the action tag that identifies the dialogue. So he adjusted his durag and fanned his hoodie sweatshirt. Isn't the hoodie always a sweatshirt? I mean, this is a hoodie, right?
Yeah, that's normally no one calls them hoodie sweatshirts.
Yeah, I mean it's not
Colloquially,
both, right?
that's a weird thing. Normally we just say his hoodie.
Yeah. And
And you just
fanned
buy
his
hoodies.
hoodie. How is he fanning his hoodie with the buzzing of the light bulb above? How do you fan?
Maybe instead of with, he's meaning um to the tune of or to the buzzing of or in time with the buzzing
In
of.
time with maybe? Yeah. But with doesn't feel like the right
No,
word
no,
here.
it's not the right
Yeah.
because but I think what he's meaning is in time with or um you know
Yeah.
whatever visual that this writer is trying to
Yeah.
make. And I'm definitely saying man, him as the writer. It
Yeah.
feels like a male author voice. So if I'm wrong, I apologize. Although, if this is a female author that's like, no, I really want it to sound like it's being written by a dude, then good job. Like you have succeeded.
Okay, so let me read these two paragraphs and then we yeah. So I'll just
Yes,
start from the top because I feel like I need to see these in combination.
I agree.
Man, I best not find that fool up there watching no cartoon, I swear. Butcher's legs burned as he rushed up the stairs. Reaching the fifth floor, he inhaled deep as the back of his buzz-cut head itched for a scratch. Behind him, Malik Moot Carter skipped a few steps, calling after him, trying to catch up. Hey, you deaf, I said. No, hey, you deaf. I said, hold up. Damn. Moot adjusted his do-rag and fanned his hoodie with the buzzing of the light bulb above. Look, be Wallace, be blood and all, but the kid ain't Avon. Some fools just ain't built for the streets, man.
All right.
Man,
So
people, there's
just a couple things.
yeah,
Just a couple few more things here. Um, the if we want the reader to read um the way we hear it in our head, that's what we use punctuation for. So
yeah,
like this, hey you deaf, if we instead were to go, hey you deaf question mark, I said hold up. You don't need the double quote or the single quotes around it, and it can just be one sentence. I said hold up, with a lowercase h, and then
yeah,
period, and then capitalized damn. Then they're going to read it. They're not like you stumbled over it several times.
yeah,
Now they're going to read it. Hey, you deaf? I said hold up. Damn. Like using punctuation to help the reader hear what we want them to hear and say it in the
yeah.
way we want them to say
And
it is vitally important.
I think that what happened with the author here was they went down the rabbit hole of correct punctuation. Because if
If
you
it was a
want to,
speech tag,
yes, but if you want to be gloriously, perfectly grammatically correct, I think they did this correctly.
no.
Yeah, yeah, it is because it's you're quoting within a quote, right?
But he's
And
not
that
quoting. He's
no,
just
no, no,
saying,
no. I know that. But what I'm saying is like if you if you want to go down to the perfection, it is
um,
technically if you quote within a quote, you put up these little quotes, which I
yes,
think
yes, yes.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not that it's correct in this case, but it is the rule. If you Google the rule of how to quote in a quote, it'll tell you to use single quotes inside of a bigger quote to indicate a little quote.
Agreed.
Yeah,
But he's not quoting hold up. He's just saying the words.
yeah.
So it's not like
I
he's quoting someone else saying hold
I
up.
I get that. What I'm saying is like I understand
Okay.
where he
Okay.
went wrong.
Okay. Yeah, I get you.
Yeah,
But yeah, since it's one clause,
yeah,
because with a comma between it, we're saying it's two clauses. So I
yeah,
said is one clause and hold up is another clause. That doesn't make any sense. But if he's just saying those words, I said hold up. Like we say
yeah,
that all the time. Um, so with it being because it's one clause, and so it doesn't get a comma between it because it's one clause, and we don't comma out clauses.
mm,
And then also he's not quoting anybody; he's literally just saying, "I said hold up." So
yeah. I
it's
agree.
one.
And it does read a lot easier when you go, "Hey, you deaf?" I said, "Hold
Oh yeah,
up." Damn. Yeah,
yeah, and somebody who's watching us said the same thing, kind of like, "Oh, since it was single quoted out, I assumed that he is quoting what he said earlier."
yeah,
I said hold up, but that would be this. We would need something like, "I already told him to hold up," or something like that.
mm,
And that still doesn't get quoted out because it's still just one clause. I already told him to hold up, but he's not saying that. I do not think. I think
yeah,
he's literally just saying, "I said hold up."
yeah,
Like because he's trying to
yeah.
catch up to this dude.
The second piece of dialogue from Moot is not aimed at me. I have zero cultural context for anything said in that sentence.
I followed it.
Did you? Can
Oh
you
yeah.
explain it to me? Because I got nothing.
So Now, it's not that this is well set up, but
Yeah.
basically the whoever is the kid is up that they're trying to catch watching cartoons. His name is B. Wallace, and he is family. Now B blood might not mean blood kin family. They could be in a gang together, whatever, and they're still blood. So he's basically saying that the kid that they're going to see, his name is B. Wallace. He is their blood, whatever that means, and he's not Avon, which could be one of two things. It could be a fantasy specific term here, or it could be a reference to the company Avon, which is a kind of multi-level marketing drug seller. In which case, or not drug seller, makeup seller. In which case, I'm not following the reference. I don't know for that.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah. So if like
Well, some
if
some of the people in the chat are like, I thought B in B Wallace was referring back to Butch, but that's a weird thing to say to somebody that you're following. You wouldn't say to somebody you're following, look, your
oh, I
name
see. They're
be
saying
blood
look
and
B. Oh, so that's it's not he's not called B Wallace. Look B is a sentence. Look B. Period.
oh,
Wallace B blood and all. But the
well, it's
kid
still
ain't
Wallace is the
Avon.
kid's name. I at least got
Yeah.
that right.
Yeah. So
Hopefully this shows you with an entire room of people that are chatting with us and then me and Marie, and we're all spending 10 minutes on I don't understand this, what the
yeah.
heck's going on. That's a good indication that maybe you can break this up. Now here's the thing. I think you're right. Now that I'm looking at it, I think it is he's saying look Butch,
Yeah.
period, Wallace be blood and all. Okay, I do agree with that, and now that I'm looking at it, see that. But there's an easy fix for that. And again, this is how I think when I'm writing. It's always about, am I ever going to lose the readers? So if you said, look, B, close quote, Moot, finally caught up to Butch and fell in step beside him, whatever, just whatever narration you want to put there. And then new quote, Wallace be blood and all. And by dividing that out and removing B and Wallace away
Mm.
from each other, because we also, if we're going to do initials, that's also the way to do an initial, B Wallace. Like we
Yeah.
would do P period Wallace, but it's one word, be Wallace, or one noun.
Mm.
So because that is the grammatical way to do be Wallace, but it's also look be Wallace be blood and all, I'm gonna want some narration between there to make sure the reader doesn't make the mistake that I made.
Yeah.
As I always say, we want the reader thinking about the story. We don't
Yeah.
want the reader thinking about what the crap the writing means. Like how do I paint this picture? I'm totally lost. That's what we don't want them thinking about.
Yeah. And that's like it's especially important in fantasy, right? Because you have fantasy terms and you have magic and you have all the rest of this, you need to make sure that you are very clear with the reader so that they know when you're introducing fantasy and when you're actually speaking like
Yeah.
to them with direct narration.
Yeah. And not that Marie's saying this is fantasy. She's just
Yeah.
extrapolating that to fantasy.
Yeah.
And then somebody from the comments also did something really, another good comment, which was maybe spell B-B-E-E. So look, B. Um, and then that might also fix it where it's like, look, B, period, Wallace be blood and all, if you don't want to add narration there. So changing the
Yeah.
spelling of that might also help with the
Yeah.
reader's ability to follow what's going on.
Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah.
Just to indicate that it's not attached to the Wallace, because
Right.
that was also like I also made it in my head. I made it look B Wallace B blood, especially because it was like B, and I was like, is there something? Am I missing something here?
Yeah. Yeah, the BB,
Yeah.
this even though and I talk about this all the time in the writers' room. Like last night, somebody had the air filled up the airbags, and they were only like 5 words apart. And I'm like, look, they're different words, yes, but you still have air and air, and you don't need it. It could be, the engine's pumped, filling the airbags. Like you can. There's ways to rewrite it to get rid of the double
Yeah.
airs because they're only 4 words apart or 5 words apart or whatever they were apart. And so like here we're two words apart, BB.
Yeah.
And so that is it's gonna build a weird cadence that
Yeah.
is gonna, you know, affect
Now, I'm
some
assuming it's
readers.
Wallace be blood because you don't want to say Wallace is blood because it's vernacular.
Right, right. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
writing an accent.
Yeah.
Just like the
Okay.
just ain't built for the streets, man.
Yeah. Then, man, people already be saying we weak for letting him run them corner in the first place. Now you want to let him slide? I'm assuming that's
Yeah,
Butch speaking. No, I
maybe,
ain't mean it like that. All I'm saying is, and don't talk to me about Avon. Okay, I think Avon is another person.
maybe.
How do you think so? And don't talk to me about Avon. How do you think he grew as fierce as he was, huh? Not listening to you, that's for damn sure. Butch shook his head, pushing past Moot, so Moot has caught up, pushing past Moot as he stomped towards the hallway. The
Well, not only has
light-skinned fool really be out here talking to him about his brother, thinking he knows better, that he don't have shit figured. Okay?
so not only has Moot caught up without us seeing it, he's passed Butch without us seeing it. So now
Yeah.
you've lost me on the spatial side of things because you never showed me Moot moving past Butch, but Butch has to move past Moot, even though in my mind, in my movie mind, Moot is behind Butch because that's the only thing you gave me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I agree. I was about to say that. Somebody else in the chat also said this. Be careful with it. So writing an accent is already tough.
Yeah.
And if you don't do it just so, you know, again, it's one of those decisions that when you make, you cut down your potential readership. There's some people that just won't read when you write accents. They just won't. But you definitely don't want to write your narrative that way, or at least you want to
Mm.
seriously think about that decision. Because the narration, even though it's limited and it is from the character's perspective, it's still prose. And
Yeah.
so it gives a little respite from the vernacular of your dialogue. It allows the reader a moment to just have a little normalcy before they
Yes.
get into the dialogue where you're doing your accents.
This
So,
sentence, the light-skinned fool really be out here talking to him about his brother, thinking he knows better, that he don't have shit figured out. I think that sentence would be better as internal monologue, which you can put into vernacular if you.
oh yeah, certainly, because it's just dialogue.
Yeah.
So yeah, if that was italicized, because it does read, this writer hasn't done that with any of the other narration.
Yeah.
So maybe this is inner monologue, and it would just wasn't italicized.
Yeah. Because this feels like inner monologue.
It
This
does.
feels like deep inner monologue.
Yeah. So by just italicizing that, which has become the standard for inner monologue in almost
Yeah.
every genre now, there's no rule for it, but it's kind of the standard. Everybody's gone to italicizing inner monologue. So just inner monologue or just italicizing that would now make it not feel like narration, but make it feel like inner monologue.
Yeah, and put it into first person, obviously, because that's the other thing about inner monologue is it's in first person. So this light-skinned fool really be out here talking to me about my brother, thinking he knows better, that he don't have, that I don't have shit figured.
If that is it.
Yeah.
So the problem is you're now guessing. It
Mm.
could be him thinking about the light skinned fool talking to me, the narrator. But
Yeah.
it also could be the him could be Avon because you're using pronouns. So now,
Yeah, the pronouns are crazy through here. Like
yeah,
they're because I think everybody mentioned so far is a guy, and those hymns are pointing at the light-skinned fool in that sentence. All of
yeah.
these.
So the light skinned fool is talking to the light skinned fool about the light skinned fool's brother, thinking the light
Yeah,
skinned fool knows better, that the light skinned fool don't have stuff figured out.
yeah,
Is the way that, because remember your pronouns point back to the last noun or thing, pronoun. But again, I think you might be right. I think that is them trying to write inner monologue, but keep it
Mm.
in prose,
Yeah.
which is just going to really throw readers out.
So it depends. I mean, I do that in Sangwheel, but I do it in a specific way there as well.
You're still, even though I know you're giving the thought of the character, it still reads as prose.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah,
This
100%.
reads as first person,
Yeah,
present tense
it
thought,
does.
and an actual inner thought.
Yeah. So I would personally do it like this. The light-skinned fool really be out here talking to me about, because I think this is what he's saying. My brother, thinking he knows better, that
But here's the problem.
I don't have. But I mean, the author must obviously adjust this to whatever like they
Right.
intended.
But here's another problem. The light skinned fool is not connected to anything.
Yeah. I
Is
think
it
the light-skinned
Avon?
fool is moot.
That's what I'm saying. Is it Avon? Is it Moot? Is it the
Yeah.
kid, this Wallace?
Wallace.
It really isn't defined.
Yeah. I feel like I feel like we're being dumped into a story that should already have had like at least a page worth of character introductions. Like I'm missing a lot of context. And I don't mean plot context. I mean character context.
So somebody asked, do pronouns point back to the last noun, subject or object, or the last subject?
Huh.
Technically, it's the last subject.
And no, I looked this up. I looked this up recently.
Oh,
In my Sunday critique pod, actually, because we had a whole discussion about pronouns. So I can tell you exactly what it looks up. It looks up the antecedent, but very occasionally the postcedent. So the
right,
antecedent is the pronoun refers back to the last noun or subject or like proper noun thing. Subject or object doesn't matter. The last proper noun that was said, and it that agrees with it in gender and number. Okay, so if you use it, then it refers back to whatever was last in it. If you use she, whatever was last to she, he, whatever was last to he. Very
right,
occasionally, with some sentence structures, you can use what they call a postcedent, where you use the pronoun first and then have the appropriate name, but that's only when you have a clause attached to the front of the sentence.
right, right,
Then you can have the postcedent pronoun.
right. Yeah. I mean, most people will read it as the last subject,
Yeah.
but you are correct. It really is the last,
Proper noun.
just, yeah, proper noun or thing or whatever it is. So I just, especially, I have to deal with this a lot because I write a lot of action scenes. So I write a lot of fight scenes between, two males or three males or four males, or, same thing on the side with the females. But when you are in a fight with like four males, it's a lot of keys, especially considering maybe only one of them is named, which is the narrating character, and he's fighting three unnamed guards. And so you really have to struggle with making sure that you never lose the reader, because again, I want them thinking about the fight. I don't want them thinking about figuring out what I'm trying to show them in the writing.
Sometimes when it's not important, like when the gender is not important, whatever I'm writing a society where it's not important, I will gender swap tertiary characters just to be able to get multiple
Yep.
pronouns in there.
Yep.
But like,
Yeah.
oh, the swordsman, now a swordswoman, so I can use she sometimes.
Yep. Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, it's just it does make your life easier, and it's a tertiary character, so who cares? I mean, as long as if you've already set up a society where, a male would not be doing that job or a female would not be doing that job, whichever way you go, then no, you can't just willy-nilly do it, because then you break your own world building. But yes, most of the time,
if you have strong gender roles, you can't do that. But if you don't have strong gender roles, if you've got an egalitarian society, like
right.
make your tertiary characters evenly genderized, it'll make your pronouns go a lot further.
Yeah. And no one will notice it as long as you're doing it kind of that way.
Yeah. Um, Anyway, sorry. It amuses me because somebody asked me once, why do you have such a mix of whatever, and I was like, pronouns. I have pronouns.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so man, people already be saying we're weak for letting him run them. Okay, them corner threw me out, but I think that's just vernacular.
No, because it would still either be, there's a typo. It would
Okay,
either be them corners or the corner. So maybe that
yeah,
the M is accidentally there or an S is left off of corners.
yeah.
But them is plural, so you have to corners has to go with them if it's a and even in the vernacular you're going to say it that way.
What does run a corner mean?
Stand out on the corner, usually selling drugs.
Okay,
You know, gangs fight over corners because that's kind of your shop, but your shop is a person that can walk, and so like a lot of inner city killings are because they're killing the person that's standing on a corner that they want. So
okay.
that's what it means to run a corner.
Right. By the way, to the author, don't think that you have to change this because I don't understand. I am from Finland. I am not your target audience.
Right, 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 right.
Yeah. I'm just asking because I don't understand.
Yeah.
Man, people already be saying we weak for letting him run the corner in the first place. Now you want to let him slide? No, I ain't mean it like that. All I'm saying is, and don't talk to me about Avon. How do you think he grew as fierce as he was? Huh, not listening to you, that's for damn sure. Butch shook his head, pushing past Moot. Okay, we've done all of that. All right.
Well, so again, punctuation to control the reader. So after instead of an M dash, if you put a question mark and then not,
Yeah.
they're going to read it as, how do you think he grew up so as fierce as he was, huh? Not listening to you, that's for damn sure. Like, again, instead of that M dash where you're just going to read right through it, by doing that hard stop, especially with the question mark, which is going to make me now read it as a question. As fierce as he is, huh? You know, I'm asking you a question. How do you think, huh? And then I'm going to answer my own question with a not listening to you.
Yeah.
But with the M dash, it's not read that way.
Yeah. Punctuation does help a lot with readers.
Controlling the reader.
It really does. It provides the scaffolding and the kind of the framework for the reader. Past the bricked walls, cement flooring, and numbered doors, Butch rolled the sleeves of his sweater jacket, his blood steaming to a boil.
Now, there is a very big difference between a sweater jacket and a hoodie. And he's wearing a hoodie.
No, Moot's wearing a hoodie. Butch might be wearing a sweater jacket.
Oh, was it? We've talked about this for so long. I've completely forgotten everything the details.
But that's not actually my problem. Why are we past the brick walls, the cement flooring, the numbered doors, and then Butch is rolling the sleeves of his sweater jacket? Like the author is covering the whole corridor, except we've presumably been walking with Moot and Butch. You know, a better way to cover what we've been walking past would be to include some of the description in the earlier narration portions, to actually narrate here. They passed the numbered door. They passed door number 8. They passed the bricked wall. The cement floor echoed under their sneakers. Stuff like that. Like, give us the description of the place organically through the earlier narration, not in one run-on sentence before Butch is rolling up his sleeves with his blood steaming to a boil. I like his blood steaming to a boil, by the way. It's a very evocative description.
Yeah. So a couple months ago in the writers' room, the monthly writers' workshop that I did was all about trying to push them into understanding there's 4 things you need to do at the very beginning of every scene, but especially your opening scene, that you want to do them as quickly as possible. Whose head am I in? Where am I at? Why am I here? And what is the hook? What is the cool thing? What is the interesting thing? What is the intriguing thing that's going to hook me and make me want to keep reading? And I don't feel like I really know. I mean, based on just inference, I'm guessing that we're in a project, that this is a one of those crappy government built apartment complexes they shove a bunch of people into, three families to a room, and all of that stuff. But I don't see it. I'm only guessing that that's what it is. We could be on a space station. We could be like, who knows where we're at. So I don't feel that this author's done a great job. And again, I think that might be because the author knows where they're at. And so they don't need to describe where they're at because they know where they're at.
Yeah.
But again, I don't. And so if you don't give it to me, then
Yeah. So I think you need to do the author did a good job of putting us in Butcher's head, and they have been consistent about staying in Butcher's head.
mhm,
I haven't seen anything like a head hop and so on, so
nope.
that is well done.
Mhm,
The vernacular dialogue has been, I think, good.
mhm,
I mean, I don't know enough about this vernacular to say, but it does feel authentic, which is good. But the physical location where we're at needs more description.
mhm,
The hook I think is there. It's just a little buried beneath. It's awkward to read because the hook is Butch going to, wallop Wallace.
mhm.
Which is interesting. I mean, what did the poor kid do to deserve this? And where's it gonna go?
Yeah.
But I think you need to do a more physical description here and give it to us organically within the narration
Yeah.
before we get to this point.
And just to expand upon that, because this is just how I teach it. So first of all, defining the word setting. The setting is everything but the narrating character. So in this case, the setting is everything but Butch, which means it includes Moot, it includes the stairs, it includes the walls, it includes the air, it includes everything but Butch. So what I try to push is when you're scene set by having the POV interact with the setting interact with the POV, or the setting interact with the setting. So as an example, Moot skipped up some stairs. So that shows us that's the setting interacting with the setting, because Moot is a part of the setting and the stairs are a part of the setting. And it shows us not only where Moot is and where Butch is, because he's on stairs at that point, but it also shows us that there are stairs.
Yeah.
And so we can do that through all of this as they're having their discussion. And then that way the reader is always grounded in where they are. Like we could use the top of the stairs when he gets to the floor, walking down the hall as he's going down the hall. Now we see all of this stuff as it's happening in between all this dialogue and Butch's inner monologue and his feelings and all of that. And so now that grounds us and we can see everything around us as we're walking through this scene. Because again, the author can see this, but we can't.
Yeah. That is indeed the problem. Okay, so with his fist on the door.
So you've read that, but that is one sentence that I want to talk about.
Which one?
With his fist on the door.
You don't want to talk about it.
No, I do.
Okay.
But you've read that. I don't. So if I'm going to use a lot of words to just describe a simple action, there has to be a payoff. And there's no payoff. I've already read down. There's no difference on if we just said, Butch banged 3 times on the door. Yo, Wallace. Like, there's no difference in this wordy, with his fist on the door, Bush banged once, twice, ending with a third. Like, he banged 3 times. Like,
I nearly read it as Butch banged once, twice, thrice. And then I was like, there's no way this vernacular says thrice.
yeah. Or Butch banged once, twice, 3 times a lady. But again, there's no payoff for this long-winded way of describing somebody pounding on a door. And I don't even think you need 3 times, unless, because I don't see a payoff for that either. Butch pounded on the door. Yo, Wallace, I know you in there. Open up.
Yeah.
I don't see.
Yeah, no.
I don't see a payoff for knowing that he pounded 3 times.
So basically, you go past the brick walls, the cement flooring, and the numbered doors in the space of 3 fragments. And like, how many words is this?
It,
9 words. And then to describe somebody hitting a door 3 times takes 14 words. There's, there's something not quite balanced in this description of actions right here.
yeah.
Um,
And again, it's not if we were racing past the brick wall, cement flooring, and numbered doors because it has nothing, like we've already set the setting and we
Yeah.
already know where we're at, then that line is not bad by itself. It's the fact that that line is the only thing that's showing me this building, and that's just not enough to really ground the reader.
correct.
So
Yeah,
it's not
that's
that
what
the
I
line
feel as well.
itself is bad; it's that it's the only thing there.
Yo, Wallace, I know you're in there. Open up. From inside, clicks and clacks rushed the door. Butch retreated and thought better of it when he heard the dog bark with that bitch-ass toy breed squeak. Behind the door, a nasally voice called out. Called what? Called out what? Butch cracked his knuckles. The nerve on this boy for telling him to wait. Why didn't you just tell him?
Yeah,
Bending his knees, Butch threw hooks and jabs, itching for a bag to hit when the lock turned. About damn time. Okay, I understand what this paragraph is saying, but it took me a little while to get here.
yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about some purely technical things. There's a lot of from inside, behind the door, and so like they were the two that stood up for me, especially given with I know you're in there, and then it's from inside, which has got the repeat of in, and then it's behind the door.
Mhm.
You know.
I also have a problem with the verb choice in the first sentence.
Mm.
Clicks and clacks rushed the door. Clicks and how do clicks and clacks rush a door?
I think he
Um,
means, I know, I understand what he means. There's pause inside the door that is clicking and clacking on the floor as a dog rushes towards the door. So he can hear clicking and clacking rushing towards the door.
no, I get that, but we haven't seen the dog yet.
No.
And so now I'm thinking about, and again, I don't want my readers thinking about what I'm writing. I want them thinking about the story. So that's you're exactly meaning my point. Yes,
Mm.
we do find out that it's a dog, but when I read that sentence, I may pause there and go, "What? What? What does that
So
even mean?"
what I would say is the clicks and clacks of claws on tiles.
Whatever. Yeah, there's a million ways to write it.
Yeah.
But
But I think you do need to you can't just say clicks and clacks rush the door. I think you need to say clicks and clacks
see, and
of
I might do something just as a suggestion. And I don't like writing for other people, but just to keep using the same words that he has here, but to flip it around. Once inside, and he heard as a filter, but I'm going to leave it in there. Whatever. We don't need he heard because anything that's heard is heard by Butch. So really, to cut the filter, we can just write from inside. The dog with that bitch ass toy breed squeaked, comma, it's clicks and clacks rushing the door, or
yeah.
followed by clicks and clacks rushing the door, or followed by clicks and clacks of its claws rushing the door. Whatever. There's other ways to. I'm trying to keep all the words, or as many of the words as this character, as this writer already has in here. So just that was my problem, is that when if you just look at the sentence by itself, from inside clicks and clash rush the door, doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So I know what he was trying to say. It's that it doesn't make any sense standing alone.
Yeah. So that was the one problem with it. My other problem with this paragraph is behind the door, a nasally voice called out. Then we don't see the dialogue. We see Butch cracking his knuckles. Just put the dialogue in there. What does the nasally voice say?
1 minute.
Yeah.
Hold up. Something. And then everything else makes sense.
Yeah.
Again, this goes back to the main thing we've talked about through this entire piece, is that the writer knows everything that's going on, but they're writing in a way that's constantly dislodging the reader from the story.
Yeah.
Because now we're like behind the door, nasally voice called out. Butch cracked his knuckles, and everyone is gonna go, okay, what did he call out? I get that you give me what he called out in the next sentence, the nerve of the boy for telling him to wait. Oh, he told him to wait. But again, my mind is no longer seeing the scene. My mind is now thinking about something you don't want me to think about, which is, well, what did the boy call out? And that's not what you want your readers thinking about. You want them thinking about the scene. And so give it to them. Just the voice called out, hold up. Butch cracked his knuckles. The nerve of this boy telling him to wait. Like all of that flows now. And no one even pauses.
As the door opened, Butch pushed through, shoving Wallace's skinny ass to the side. He rushed into the living room, checking for the dog and whatever it was that this fool thought was more important than handling his business. Butch's stomach tightened. It was a damn circus, no other way to put it. Amidst the cheeping of the chihuahua, 4 mopes in pajamas sat around the table playing dress-up. One had a cardboard helmet on, another had on a pointy hat and a long-ass paper beard taped to his lanky-ass face. As for the other 2, Butch clenched his jaw at how they looked near his age, mid-20s, and still playing with colored pencils, small for greens, and one dumb-looking red book that read Dungeons and Drakes.
See, now I take back everything I said about this guy. This is literally gold. This is breathtakingly well written. Like Dungeons and Drakes, absolutely, 100%. This needs to win. This needs to win a Nebula Award. I know it's not sci-fi, but it doesn't matter. It's that good. It is so good it should win the Nebula. I take back everything I said. You're a genius, sir. You're a genius.
I don't.
I may be a little biased.
I appreciate the geek reference. I do, but no. Okay, so a couple
well,
of
actually,
things.
can I say something really quickly?
Yeah.
Now, if he's using Dungeons and Drakes because that's what he wants to use, that's awesome. I just wanted to take a side track here and wonder if he's using Dungeons and Drakes because he didn't want to use Dungeons and Dragons because of copywriting issues. Once a term has reached public consciousness, like the word Dungeons and Dragons, you can use it in your literature. You can reference song titles. You can reference band names. You can say he reached for a Kleenex. They went to McDonald's and ate a Big Mac. You can do all of that. There's nothing if it's in the public awareness, then it's public, and you absolutely can use it under parody law. Now, you cannot quote a line from a song. That is copyrighted. That is, plagiary. You also can't. So the laws in the United States are very difficult to actually sue someone for harm. The legal term for harm, it's not coming to me right now.
Malicious damage?
Yeah, but I mean, there's a term for it. It's not that, but that means the same thing. So they have to prove that you cost them money. So like if you talk about how crappy McDonald's food is and, all this stuff, McDonald's can sue you. But to win, they have to prove that you actually lost them money because of your statement specifically. And that is really hard to do in the United States. So I don't recommend that you you disparage things, but Dungeons and Dragons is in the public consciousness. You 100% can use that as a full name, and there's literally nothing they can do to you. You can't use their logo because their logo is copyrighted. Like you couldn't put the picture of the Dungeons and Dragons logo in here because the logo itself is copyrighted. But the words Dungeons and Dragons is in the public consciousness, just like Kleenex, just like any of that stuff. You can 100% use. Now, again, if in this world they're playing Dungeons and Drakes, which I personally think is a way better title for the game name than Dungeons and Dragons, then you're golden. But if you're doing it because you were concerned about copywriting issues, there is no copywriting issues. It just doesn't. There's nothing there that they can do to you because of right of free use because it's in the public consciousness.
Yeah.
Anyway, Now we can talk about the paragraph. I just want to take that little side note because most people don't
Yeah,
really understand copyright stuff, so they think they can't use like Dungeons and Dragons.
100%. So, okay, so let's start with as the door opened, Butch pushed through, shoving Wallace's skinny ass to the side. I feel like we spent a lot of time talking about this door. You can probably just skip the door opening because we've had the door unlocking, so you can just go Butch push through, shoving Wallace's skinny ass to the side. So that's the one thing.
That's I mean, the yes, I'm not denying you, but also I don't mind the imagery of actually seeing the door open too.
But
So,
it feels like we've spent an awful lot of time at this freaking door now.
oh yeah, no, I agree with you there. But I'm just saying it that is just a call that an author needs to make. You're not wrong if you cut it. You're not wrong if you keep it. It really is just your call.
Uh,
I would look to cut down the
yeah.
the above start of it a little bit more than worrying about that little clause.
I need to briefly address the comment section. IKEA is Swedish. It is not Dutch. It is not from the Netherlands. These two countries are not the same. Sweden is on Scandinavia, which is the other ball of Europe's ball sack that dangles on top of it. Finland's on the one, and Scandinavia is on the other one. Okay. And now that you've got that image
No,
in
I
your
just
head, you'll never forget those two things again.
yes. Now I really do love the comment though that started that conversation. The Millennium Trilogy mentions loads of brands I've never heard of, and IKEA. I thought that was funny.
Yeah, the brands are the brands that they mention are Nordic brands
Yeah,
mostly.
specific to them. And
Yeah.
the only one that's really broken out is IKEA, and
Yeah.
everyone knows what IKEA is.
Well, yes. Yeah. So there's a couple of brands that have broken out from here, but yeah, IKEA's the biggest one.
Yeah.
Although anybody who cuts probably knows Fiskars scissors, which is
Oh yeah.
from Finland. So
Yeah.
Fiskars is from Finland. Anyway, little bit of national pride there. So
A lot of people don't know this that Fiskar actually initially invented their scissors to cut Russians. They don't know that, but that was the original idea, and then they were just so good at cutting paper that they decided to pivot because they thought there was a bigger market for it. Since you mentioned Finnish pride, I just had to throw in the Russian.
absolutely. Okay. So, blah, blah, blah. From the inside, okay. As the door opened, he rushed into the living room, checking for the dog and whatever it was this fool thought was more important than handling his business.
A long run-on sentence.
It's a long run-on sentence. And I feel like this is where you should slow down and you should show us more. Because we're starting to get to the crux here. Like, this does not feel like a good place for a run-on.
Mm-hmm. And so the problem with run-on sentences is that you're burying everything. So
yeah,
we are going to see the rushing into the living room. We're going to see the checking for the dog. But by the time we get down to what was more important than handling his business, we've already gotten so much information that that's kind of whitewashed. It just doesn't have the impact that it should have in there.
yeah. Then I'm in two minds here. So Butcher's stomach tightened is fine. It was a damn circus, no other way to put it. I would maybe say put this after you've described, like give us some sort of description before you give us like Butch saying it's a circus, because like the emotion before showing the reader feels a little bit like
Out of
cart
order.
before horse.
Mm-hmm. What she's
It's
saying is
not
take it. It was a
wrong.
damn circus and move it
Yeah,
below Dungeons and Drakes.
I would just move. It was a damn circus, another way to put it. I would actually just straight up move it to here.
As its own paragraph.
Yeah. Because like, and I've seen people do like the emotion before the description. So it's not like, I'm not saying it's wrong, but to me, it reads better to show me and then give me the feeling, if you're not doing it kind of as one. I don't know what four mopes, I don't know what a mope is when it's used as a noun. I'm assuming some kind of a vernacular, because in my opinion, mopes is a verb. He mopes. He mopes around the house.
No, it's also a slang term for a person who is literally just someone, just that description of that verb.
Moping around the house. Fair enough.
Well, they're as worthless as moping around the house. So it's been nouned. It's a noun for mopes.
Okay.
It just means for people that are worthless, that are no better than moping around the house.
Okay. Cool. So four mopes in pajamas sat around the table playing dress up. If they're in pajamas, what are they playing dress up as? Anyway, one had a cardboard helmet on, pointy hat, long ass paper beard taped to his lanky ass. The long ass and the lanky ass kind of stood out to me as
Yeah.
descriptors.
Yeah, it's too redundant.
Yeah. Especially like, and I get that it's vernacular, but it still feels overdone.
Right. Let's also okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, let's talk about semicolons.
Okay.
So this sentence does not get semicolons.
No.
Those are commas. Those are just clauses.
Yeah.
But also it was a damn circus, no other way to put it, doesn't get a semicolon. A semicolon separates two complete sentences. No other way to put it has no subject. It's not a complete sentence. So it's just a clause. Now you can use an em dash if so. An em dash. This is not the grammatical rules of an em dash, but kind of it's kind of accepted in prose and fiction prose that an em dash we can use in replace of a comma to stress something. So it was a damn circus, em dash, no other way to put it, or it was a damn circus, comma, no other way to put it. Or we can fragment sentences as well. It was a damn circus, period, no other way to put it. I like the comma better, but the semicolon is grammatically not correct.
Yeah. I like the em dash better than
that's why I went there first.
comma, because the em dash to me feels like it gives it more emphasis.
Right.
No other way to put it, without putting it in a fragment sentence, which should.
But I don't think there was any em dashes in here. So yeah, I use em dashes. But if some
No,
people
there
just
has
don't
been
like,
em dashes.
has there?
We have had over
Oh,
there.
yeah, there is one right there. Okay,
Yeah.
then yeah. Then the author might want to think about doing an em dash there.
Yeah.
But anything other than a semicolon,
Yeah,
would be grammatically. Yeah, one of the peanut gallery said, "I love me an em dash," and me too. I do. They're awesome.
I do like an em dash. So one of the peanut gallery said, "Is there a reason to use semicolons at all? I hate them personally.
Yes.
People who aren't well versed in proper English always stumble on them." Okay, so
yes,
a semicolon connects two complete sentences that are related to the same concept. So it takes two complete sentences and it makes it one, basically.
That are intimately related.
Intimately related.
So not Drake ran into the kitchen, semicolon. He slapped the burglar in the face. One is, that's just an order of things. So that's not intimately related. You could say, well, if he didn't run into the kitchen, he couldn't have slapped the burglar. Yes, but it's not intimately related. Let me see if I've got an example. I'm not going to look it up. But yeah, it needs to be basically the same sentence said in two different ways, but one of them gives an extra piece of information that the other one doesn't have, but they're so intimately related that they really are kind of one thought. There's just kind of two ways of looking at it, or one gives more information or whatever.
100%. But
it can't just be two sentences.
The peanut gallery listed my exact problem with semicolons. So for me, and for this person in the peanut gallery, a semicolon ends a line of code. it says end of instruction, new line. That is what a semicolon does. It ends a line of code instruction. So when I see it in prose, it inevitably it pulls me straight out of it, because I'm like, what do I do with this end of instruction now?
But that is a specific to somebody who actually writes
Right.
code.
Sure.
Most readers, if you use them correctly, and they also said Marie is my spirit animal. Most readers, if you use a semicolon correctly, they don't even notice it. Whereas if you put a period or an em dash or a comma between those two, it doesn't have the same impact. It's exactly like what we've talked about a couple times through here. I use punctuation so that the reader is feeling exactly what I want them to feel, or seeing exactly what I want them to see, or hearing exactly what I want them to hear. And so I don't use many semicolons. You know, I might use one a chapter. I might not use any in a chapter. I might use one every 2 pages. I might use two in the same paragraph. I don't know, because I only use them when they feel right. But again, when I do use them, no reader is going to be thrown out by them. They're not going to. I mean, again, if you're a coder, I can't help you. There's nothing I can do about that. Because you're going to see it that way regardless of it. But if you're not a hardcore programmer, then if it's used correctly, then, and no, I don't hate coders. I just said I can't help you. I don't know how to code, so I honestly can't help you. Like, I can't even tell you what you did wrong. I can't give you assistance. So if used correctly, the readers are going to feel exactly what you want them to feel. They're going to see that connection between the two sentences, and they're going to see the intimacy that those two clauses hold with each other. And so they're going to connect them kind of as one thing, whereas you don't get that if you did any other type of punctuation.
Yeah. No,
So,
and I get that, but I will go somewhat out of my way to write out if it looks as though I have to write a semicolon, grammatically, I will go somewhat out of my way to rewrite that phrase to not write a semicolon.
yeah. And there's nothing wrong with either side of this.
Yeah.
You know, Marie doesn't use them at all. I use them occasionally, but I use them in a way that no one ever points them out. So I know I use them correctly, because it doesn't ever, no one even notices them. You always know you've done something right grammatically if no one notices that you spent the time to do it right. Like, you only know you did it wrong because everyone says, this really threw me out.
Yeah.
This is terrible.
Here, it is not used correctly. These semicolons they are not semicolons.
Right. Nor in the, it was a damn
nor
circus.
it was a damn circus, no other way to put it. And I think that is that time. It feels like time.
Yeah.
All right.
I think we might have gone over a little bit.
Yeah.
I really wish Zoom had a timer.
Had a little timer on it, yeah. So I feel overall with this author, I feel like there's two problems with this piece. The first or the things that the author should work on. The first problem is the first and biggest problem is scene setting, actual description. Like, you need to physically describe what's going on around us, bearing in mind that the reader is not in your head. What is in your head needs to come onto the paper. Paper book versus head book. I know we've spoken about it before. It bears repeating again and again and again. Just make sure that you do it, that you describe your actual head book in your paper.
Take care of your reader.
Yeah.
That's what they're there for. That's your job. Your job is to take care of them. Their job is to enjoy the story.
Yeah, I agree. And then, so that's the one thing. The second problem is a little bit of punctuation issues that sneaks in with the vernacular. Now, if you're writing in vernacular, and I am not the publishing industry will tell you shouldn't write in accents, blah, 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 blah. I'm of the opinion that, if you like them, write in them. That is my opinion.
I want to add a caveat to that. because I am writing my
Yeah.
current work in progress with a lot of accents.
Yeah.
Yes, if you like them, write them. However, as I always say, you do not get to decide if you're successful in your writing. Only the reader does. So I would highly recommend that you get a bunch of people giving you feedback on it. I spent 3 years working on the 5 accents that I'm using in the Genesis saga. 3 years just on that one thing.
So my advice on writing this kind of accent, which is, I mean, obviously this is a standard kind of American accent, so you don't have to, do as much as you would for like a fresh accent. But
Mm-hmm.
the thing about the accent is you do need to help the reader with your punctuation to understand it, especially if you're going to, aim at readers who might not be familiar with the accent, who might not be as into that vernacular. So, try to like, I think you just said it well, and I think that this is what the author most needs to take to heart. Look after your reader. Make it easy for the reader to get into the story, to understand the story, to understand the dialogue, and to grasp what's happening on the page.
So I guess I'll take the role of good cop.
Mm.
The nice thing about this piece was like the prose is pretty solid. The sentence structure, there was a few little, I'd move this paragraph or move this sentence, or this sentence belongs to that paragraph, the semicolons. But for the most part, the writer has a really good grasp of grammar, which is nice because we didn't do a lot of fixing of that. I think the big thing that I would push the writer on if they were a part of the writer's room is the order of things, because I feel like they're very biased in their knowledge. And so, since they understand what's happening, when it's out of order, it doesn't affect them negatively because they understand the whole scene as a whole. We only understand it per word that we read. Every word we read, we understand everything from that word past. And then when we read the next word, we understand the past from that word, and so on and so forth. And so, what I try to challenge my writers to do is when you're in editing mode, and it's hard, but try to read your stuff as if it's the first time you've ever read it and you did not write it. And that's hard. But then you force yourself to actually have no knowledge and start reading that scene and go, yeah, I don't see this now. I did see it, before because I knew it. But now that I'm pushing all that away and I only am allowing myself to see what's on the screen, that's when you start realizing the negatives that you're doing to the reader with your foreknowledge. And so that's the thing that me personally, I would push the writer on. And again, it comes back to what you said. Take care of your reader. Like, we are small businesses. Readers are our customers. The better we treat them, the better they enjoy their experience with us, the more they want to continue buying from us. And I know that that hurts the art side of it. I know that it's like, oh, money kills art. And yes, you're right. But a part of the art to me is taking care of my reader. Like, that is a part of the art. Being able to not only deliver a story that they love and enjoy, but deliver it in a way that they're never struggling to fall into that story. So that's what I would push the writer for on that.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think that this piece overall had a lot of potential. It had some good, solid intro into it. It had like a nice actiony hook. Like, I could read this. But you do need to take a little bit more care of your reader and help them along gently to get into your story.
Agreed.
And I think that that is good a good place on which to end this episode. And we will see you soon for another one.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in. This is Marie Mullaney, your co-host on this literary adventure. Our goal is to provide you with valuable insights and discussions on writing. If you believe in our mission, please like and subscribe our podcast. Sharing our episodes with your community not only helps us grow, but also contributes to a richer, more diverse conversation about storytelling. We appreciate your support. For a deeper understanding of the topics we've discussed, head over to Just in Time Worlds on YouTube. It is a treasure trove where fantasy meets history and science. Every Tuesday, you'll find new videos that delve into the intricacies of world building, drawing from our rich real-world history. Whether you're a writer, a role player, or just a fantasy enthusiast, Just in Time Worlds offers unique insights that will enrich your perspective. Check it out and join the journey of crafting incredible worlds.
If you are ready to take your writing to the next level and work with a group of highly motivated, dedicated writers who are all working to not only improve their writing, but improve your writing, plus you get to work with me on a weekly basis, then I'll encourage you to check out writersroom.us. This is a website that I have created that I really wish I had 30 years ago. It's everything a writer needs to become a better writer. Not only do we do weekly critique sessions, both from other members as well as me, we have daily writing sessions, I do monthly classes, Q&As, we have activities, I do all sorts of learning exercises, such as I do a quarterly writing prompt contest, and just tons and tons and tons of things. So if you're ready to get serious about your writing and you want to actually finish that novel and have a chance of it being published, then I encourage you to head on over to the Writer's Room and join me there. And as a special promotion for listeners of Releasing Your Inner Dragon, I'll go one step more. If you would like to get 50% off for 3 months, reach out to me. There's a million ways you can do that. You can do it through starvingwriterstudio.com, drakeu.com, any of my social medias such as LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, X, whatever. Reach out to me, say that you would like to check out the Writer's Room for 50% off, and I will send you a link that will allow you to do just that. So hopefully you're ready to start getting serious about writing, and I'll see you in the Writer's Room.